Am I the a-hole for yelling at my pregnant sister-in-law and telling my husband to choose me or her? Original post. See, I know the title sounds wrong, but please hear me out. I'm currently typing this all up while my husband's entire family is sitting downstairs. So I, 29 female, have been married to my husband for 8 years. About 2 months ago, I had my third miscarriage at 31 weeks. I won't be talking about it because it makes me feel so depressed, but you'll need to remember this. About 4 months ago, my sister-in-law, 20, came crying at our doorstep, telling us she's pregnant and her boyfriend didn't want anything to do with the pregnancy and had nowhere to go. My husband and I openly took her in, welcomed her into our home with open arms. For the first few weeks, it was really hard for her, understandably. I sat with her for hours, holding her when she cried, binging our favorite TV shows, eating so much ice cream we quite literally fell into a coma. It was really bonding for us, or so I thought. Here's where it starts going downhill. I take pride in my neat, clean home. My sister-in-law, on the other hand, did not. She would leave her clothes all around the house, leave her dirty dishes wherever, even went as far as leaving her toys on our living room table. I tried to talk to her directly before I talked to my husband, and she immediately started crying and told me she'd try to be cleaner. I hugged her, told her it was okay, but this is a clear boundary for me. She told me it won't happen again. But it only got worse. She told me I was expected to do her laundry, dishes, and clean her room daily because she's the pregnant one. Well, I do understand how hard it is being pregnant. I just couldn't allow feeling like a maid in my own home. Disclaimer, I bought this house, not my husband. It was all me. Not to mention my recent loss of my child. So I told my husband, but what he told me shocked me. His exact words were, "Honey, she's going through a lot right now. We really should be helping her out. Plus, it might make you feel better to take care of someone who's pregnant." I was mad to say the least. Make me feel better? She's going through a lot? We need to help her. Letting her stay with us wasn't enough? While I don't want to invalidate her pain, my husband and I were also going through our own problems. Anyways, we moved on. I did my best to maintain work and household chores. My husband works 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., so he isn't around to help much. I work full-time from home, so it's been super stressful. When I even try to ask for help from my sister-in-law, she always makes an excuse, even if she's just watching TV. The one thing that pushed me over the edge was, I went out to buy my one food that I have actually enjoyed eating after my miscarriage. I wrote my name on it and directly asked my sister-in-law to not eat it. Well, I went to go to my fridge to get it, and you'll never guess, she freaking ate it. Now you may think it's just food. I buy all the groceries, basically pay all the bills. I don't mind people having some of my food, but the one thing I ask to not be touched gets touched. So I told my husband, and of course, he rubbed it in my face that she's pregnant, that I need to be less selfish, and life is about sacrifices. I was so upset. I told him I felt like him and her were the horrible roommates people talk about on Reddit. He didn't take that well, lol. Which leads us to my title. My sister-in-law planned a random baby shower party thing at my house. I personally didn't know if I could even be home when this was happening. I felt so hurt that she wouldn't talk to me knowing everything that has happened, and that she would just invite random strangers into another person's home before asking. My husband urged me to go, told me it would permanently affect mine and her relationship. So I told him I'd go. About halfway through the party, my husband and sister-in-law announced that they wanted to show the nursery to everyone. I was confused. Nursery? She was staying that long? What room did she turn into a nursery? They told everyone to head upstairs, and that's when it hit me. They were talking about my nursery for my baby I had just lost. A wave of emotions hit me when I saw everyone in my baby's nursery, telling her what a good job they did setting it up. My setup for my baby that my body failed to give me. I just lost it. I started sobbing, then that sadness turned into pure rage. I started yelling at my sister-in-law, telling her she's the foulest human for putting me through everything she has for the last few months, making me feel like I was a maid or an object for her convenience. Through choked-up tears, I turned to my husband whose jaw was on the floor. I turned my head to see his entire family just staring at me, and I lost it again. Yelling, I looked at my sister-in-law telling her how dare she use my nursery for my baby. How dare she think she has the right? What she told me made me fall to my knees sobbing. It's not my fault you couldn't produce a child. Why let this go to waste? You're so selfish. My husband tried to pick me up off the floor, but I yelled again. Standing to my knees, which were now shaking, I told him, pick. a dumbfounded look on his face. I yelled again, "Pick, me or her." He couldn't even muster up anything to say. I just looked at him, pure betrayal. I pushed past a crowd of family and ran straight up here to type this out. Even if no one sees this, at least it's helped me to let these emotions out. Now is the point where I ask, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. I'm so sorry for what you've been through. It's maybe time to reconsider your marriage. Your husband disrespected you and didn't take in consideration your feelings in your home. Tell your sister-in-law to take her belongings and get out of the house immediately. It's unacceptable behavior. You deserve respect. And you're not a maid. You're a person with feelings, with traumas. You need to heal. And for that, you need her out. And maybe your husband for a moment. The time to think about what you want for your future. You must be broken, and it's so understandable. Please seek for help and therapy. I wish you best for the future. I feel like husband and sister are not done yet. Something tells me that there's another thing coming, even bigger than the nursery. Do you think they're going to ask for her to stay and co-parent? Not the a-hole. Ask her to leave ASAP. She obviously has other family. They can have her. If your husband doesn't like it, he can go too. If he stays, you need couples counseling as he doesn't seem to consider you a priority, and that needs to change. You didn't have a miscarriage at 31 weeks. You had a stillbirth. And that's very hard to take. That's what I was thinking. 31 weeks is premature, but definitely not just a miscarriage. I've got family members who all suffered multiple miscarriages, most before 14 weeks, and that was still highly traumatic. At 31 weeks, OP birthed a child. Another family member of mine had a child born at 29 weeks, and you'd better believe that was a baby. Had to spend about 6 weeks in the NICU and was quite tiny, but is now thankfully nearly 2 and thriving. The level of trauma the husband and sister-in-law put OP through is beyond disgusting. Clearly the husband is in serious denial over the loss of his child too, or he's a sociopath. The fathers of all the miscarried children I knew grieved the loss just as much as their wives. They both wanted the children that didn't survive, and were both broken by it. You know, come to think of it, I'm starting to wonder if the reason OP's husband is getting so defensive over his sister is because he sees this as a chance to replace the baby they lost. I'm not excusing him because he's allowing his sister to treat his wife horribly, but it feels like a really unhealthy coping mechanism. My thoughts exactly, and I was looking for someone to say it. He's going to take this baby as if he's the dad, keep sister in the house forever, and OP can be the third wheel to clean up after the kid. Tell them both to GTFO, not the a-hole. Yes, not the a-hole. I think that was quite possibly the meanest, most hurtful, disrespectful thing I've seen on here yet. The betrayal of those words your sister-in-law said to you while standing in your nursery are awful, vile, and disgusting. I'm so sorry, OP, for all that you've been through. Kick her butt out ASAP. And let your husband know if he ever treats you like that again, he's out the door right behind her. That's of course if you don't kick him out ASAP too, which you'd be right to do. Now for the update. I'm not quite sure if this is the proper way to do an update, but hopefully everyone can see it. First, I just want to address a few comments. I know I had stillborn. The only reason I say miscarriage is because that is what my obstetrician told me was happening. Here's the updates everyone's been asking for. Buckle up, it's a long one. After posting my story on here, I sat in my bed wiping my tears and telling myself I will not take this disrespect. I walked downstairs, shutting my nursery door on the way. I was greeted with everyone comforting my sister-in-law. I kindly asked everyone besides my sister-in-law and husband to respectfully get the heck out of my house. After all the dirty looks and shaming, they left, and it was just my husband, sister-in-law, and myself. They sat themselves on a couch, not saying anything. I sat with them. The silence felt like forever. None of us had anything to say. I knew I had to start the conversation. I looked at my husband and said, "Did you decide?" He looked at me just staring. I asked again in a firm tone this time. He ended up mumbling some sort of insult and I couldn't really make out what he said. Something with witchy. I stood up and told them both to get out. Then they wanted to talk. Telling me this is all a misunderstanding, they're sorry, blah blah blah. I grabbed a backpack from my shoe closet and told them to pack their things. My sister-in-law told me I couldn't just make her leave, and I was a horrible person. I laughed in her face and told her this is my house, and I can do whatever I wanted. My husband stood next to me and told her it was only for a little while. I turned to him and said, "Oh, you too, get out." He got all mad and told me we were a married couple and that this isn't how marriage works. I told him no, it is not. Marriage is where two people support each other and not treat their wife like crap. They both ended up leaving after many insults towards me. Oh, but wait, it's not over. This morning, as I was getting ready for a Zoom meeting with a few other coworkers, my husband showed up. I let him in, telling him to get whatever he needed and to go because I had to work. He started apologizing and telling me he wants to make it right. I told him I just need time away from him. Then he threw in my face, "Well, it's not my fault you lost our children. Maybe this would have never happened." My sister was right. You are selfish. I have never ever made my husband feel like he cannot grieve with me over this. Never made him feel less than because of his pain. I turned around and slapped him in the face. I never condone violence, and I'm very upset I would ever do that to another human, but I just couldn't deal with this. He took a step back and then threw all of my makeup on the floor, which I get, but then he started breaking all of my decor in my bathroom. I yelled at him to stop and that I was sorry, but he just kept going, even going as far as punching a hole in my bathroom wall. It was like I was seeing all of these bottled up emotions from our children's death come out. But it went too far when it tried to grab me, yelling in my face. I kicked him off and told him to get the heck out. He walked out of the bathroom, and I watched him break a few more items as he left. The second he left, I had a panic attack, looking at the mess he made, to even just seeing how much he hid his pain. I called my mother and told her everything that has been happening. I don't talk to my family much due to some past trauma with them. She told me she was on her way. The second she got here, I just broke down and she held me. Then she stood up and started taking pictures of everything he broke. I asked her what she was doing, and she turned to me and said, "We're suing this POS." I honestly didn't even argue. I was so hurt by everything my husband did to me. My mom packed up my computer and I grabbed a few outfits. My mom and I drove to a hotel, and she insisted on staying with me. While I finished up work, my mom called the locksmith and my attorney. I will be divorcing him as well. So there it is. Here's the update everyone has been waiting for. I feel guilty for just giving up on my husband in 8 years of our marriage. But it's time for a divorce. I can't live like this, and neither can my husband. I wish I could say we moved on, forgave each other, and I got to see my sister-in-law have her baby. But that's not reality. If anything else happens, I will let you all know. Thank you guys for the support and help with this situation. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to let my husband's family see my child after they demanded paternity tests? I just gave birth to my baby, and I have refused that my husband's family see her. At my work, I'm very close to my colleague who is a married man. We have been friends for a while. Another colleague of ours was in love with him or something, but he's married. So she didn't like the rejection. She made some accusations about him to see what would stick. One of them was that I was having an affair with him. It became very big. I was pregnant at a time, and my husband never really believed the rumors because we love each other. His family, however, doesn't love me. They demanded testing my baby, and I refused. But my husband sided with them at a time because he is conflict avoidant. Now they want to play family, which I refuse. They're not a part of my family. They never liked me, and they couldn't even hold their excitement about the rumors, even if it meant the heartbreak of their beloved son and the dissolution of his marriage. They are calling me a-hole and say they have rights to my baby. Edit: a test was taken while I was pregnant. Mother-in-law insisted that she didn't even wait for the bastard to be born. My colleague was cleared when the accusations became very serious and police got involved. And the idiot female colleague was dumb enough to have texted with her best friend about her plans. She no longer works with us. Nobody ever apologized to me. Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. Tell mother-in-law you fully expect a paternity test on your husband. Oh gosh, lol. Thank you. I needed this laugh. Yes, cheaters are the first to accuse. You need a test before the in-laws can be considered family. But really, why would they hear any gossip about your workplace? Pretty sure they heard from a husband. Would make me question if he truly did believe it on some level to side with his parents and use the excuse he just wants to avoid conflict. So take the test. So my mom had the exact situation when she was pregnant with me. My dad was military and was shipped out. After he left, my mom found out she was pregnant with me. My grandmother was convinced I was a child of an affair and had all these demands. My dad didn't believe it, but humored his mother because he also is conflict avoidant when it came to his mom. My grandfather, weirdly enough, didn't care. Surprise, surprise, I'm my father's son. But my grandmother was an absolute prick to me all growing up. Whenever no one was looking, she made sure to try and convince me I'm a bastard and terrible, like my mother, etc. When I got married, she wore white to my wedding to cause drama even. She genuinely hated me my whole life because I embarrassed her, because she told everyone my mom had an affair, and it turned out to not be true. Not the a-hole, and I wouldn't trust them to treat your baby well when people aren't watching. I feel bad for your grandma. She's delusional. She thought she would overshadow your beautiful bride by wearing white? What was she expecting? To make people confused about who's the bride? I wished I was invited to your wedding. I would have asked her, "Wow, Granny, I didn't know you were still a virgin." You are very kind to invite that miserable old crone to your wedding. Honestly, the moment she showed up in white, would have had security quietly escort her out. People like that don't change. And the fact she treated you bad over her mistake? Nope. Cut them out. I hope you're doing better. Not the a-hole. My son's father's aunt decided to make comments when my son was 1 that was I sure about his paternity because he didn't look anything like that side of the family. Guess who hadn't seen my son for 13 years now? People are so stupid. My 2 youngest sons don't even look like siblings. The older one is the spitting image of his dad. In fact, without his dad next to him, it looks like we adopted him. The younger looks like my family. Standing next to his dad and brother, you would think he was adopted. Kids don't always have visible traits from both sides, especially at 1-year-old for Pete's sake. Found out my husband was in love with his friend, so I made her my best friend and now he has no one. Plus update. This happened a while back and names are changed for privacy purposes. All ages are at the time it happened. My female 27 husband, male 30, of 5 years, Steve, had a female best friend long before we met. We'll call her Amy. I met Amy pretty early on in the relationship and thought the girl best friend thing was kind of weird, but she seemed cool. I wasn't interested in a friendship between her and I, but I figured we could be civil. Steve had other friends, but more text every now and then friends. Amy was the only one he saw in person often. She even included me on activities occasionally. Movie nights at her house or trips to the park, etc. I felt more secure because of how kind she was. The security washed down the drain every time it sprung up though. Steve always looked at Amy in a way he never looked at me. He seemed so genuinely happy when she talked, more animated and excited, etc. He also tried to get me to cut my hair to be more like hers at one point and dye it a natural color. Amy had shoulder-length brown hair, beautiful on her but not the look for me. I had longish hair that I frequently dyed fun colors. He would also drop plans with me at the drop of the hat if the opportunity to spend time with Amy came up. Not every time, but one that stands out from memory is when we were about to take a trip to visit my family. A full-day trip if we don't stop anywhere on the way. And before we left, he texted Amy to see what she was doing that day. She said nothing, and he insisted we stop by to see her before we go. Amy did not know our plans. We ended up spending the whole day there, so I rescheduled my family visit. If I had been more vocal at the time, maybe it would have been different. But I didn't, and still don't, like arguing in front of people. And bringing it up in front of Amy felt mortifying at the time. I chalked it up to me being too self-conscious and over-worrying. Steve wasn't outright cruel to me or anything, but the little things and comments tore me down. This went on for our whole marriage. One night, Steve and I were drinking at home and watching bad Christmas movies, The Ginger Dead Man and such. I got in my feelings out of nowhere, as I often do when drunk, and asked him if he ever had feelings for Amy. He admitted to it, said he'd tried to get her to be with him multiple times since middle school and she always rejected him. I asked that if she wanted to be together, if he would want to be with her instead of me. He said something along the lines of, "Stop making up hypothetical questions like that. That'll just hurt your feelings." I cried. We fought. I told him to leave and he called Amy and asked her to pick him up. When she got there, I, drunk as a skunk, went outside and in a not friendly way accused her of ruining my marriage knowingly. There was a 3-way heated argument that I'm fuzzy on details of because A, I was drunk, B, even if sober, when I'm in a heated argument I tend to erase things, and C, this didn't exactly happen yesterday. At the end of it, Amy ended up taking Steve to his mom's house. She came back to me sitting in the yard crying. This is already too long, so I'll skip ahead a bit. Amy knew vaguely that Steve had feelings for her but thought it was a weird crush that would go away. She liked me, but thought I was cold so didn't try to force a friendship.
She didn't know a lot of the stuff Steve had said to me as far as comparing me to her, and was angry about it when she learned. She let him know that she wasn't and never would be interested in him romantically. He said he understood. Steve and I then did a temporary separation that led to divorce. Amy and I became friends. She was and is a great friend to me, almost worth everything Steve put me through. She's the sister I never had. She is still friends with Steve, but in the text every now and then way. I'm more self-confident now. No real long-term relationship since the divorce, but now I'm invited to every movie night and trivia game and camping trip with Amy, so I'm not at all bothered by the lack of romantic partner. Sorry this was long. A little rushed at the end because I realized it was getting book length. Thanks for reading if you did. If you're married to a Steve, there are better things out there for you, darling. Now for the top comments before the mini update. Honestly don't understand why people marry someone else when they're in love with not the person they're marrying. Boggles my freaking brain. Glad you got out, OP. Would have been heartbreaking at a time, but you got the better outcome with a trusty friend. Fear of being alone and having a placeholder. This was uplifting, surprisingly. So you don't feel bad for Steve then? I kind of feel sorry for him, but not in a way that thinks you should regret anything because it all happened very naturally. I just feel you can't help how you feel, but he was bad at hiding it, if he even tried. To put it the best way I can, the reason I don't feel bad for Steve is because I realize he did this to himself. I loved him. He didn't love me. I left. I'm happier now. Worked on myself and didn't stay miserable. He loved Amy. Amy didn't love him. He clung around and made not only himself miserable, but also me for a while. Did he say he didn't love you? Or did you just interpret his, according to your own story, actual answer of, I've always had feelings for her and I'd want to be with her if we weren't together, as him not caring about you? I think a lot of people fool themselves into thinking they are the only one for their partner, and then make rash decisions when they find out that they've fallen in love before. Everyone settles, and statistically, it's highly probable you'd be someone's first and only choice. But congratulations on letting jealousy of a friendship that has existed for longer than your entire knowledge of this guy's existence mess up a marriage that, judging by your lack of complaints of the contrary, seemed perfectly fine. Oh, and Amy is a horrible friend. I'm laughing at the y'all should be together comments because you kinda do deserve each other. I understand what you mean. And maybe I wasn't super clear. And maybe if I was, you would still have the same opinion. I'm not upset that he had feelings for Amy. Someone else commented, and I agree I can't control who you have feelings for. But I feel the way everything went down. Marrying me without ever telling me he had feelings. Constantly putting me as wife on the back burner. Making me feel like a second-place trophy even before I knew about his feelings for her. Trying to get me to change my looks to be more like her, etc. was not how I deserved to be treated and was scummy looking back. If it was me today, I would never let any of that happen, let alone how long I let it happen. And if Amy had chosen to remain as close to him, I don't know if we would be as close. I want to say yes because of how we are now, but right in the middle of everything, I probably would have just called it a wash and not talked to her. If tomorrow she decides she wants to be close with him again, I wouldn't try to stop her. I wouldn't be around him, even if that makes me seem like a bitter child. It would have to be separate visits at separate times, etc. But I wouldn't want to lose her over it. Did I forget something and write this myself? Lol. I totally had an Amy in my life who was my best friend. Description of us matches perfectly. The hairdo, and I even cut mine to be like her. Unfortunately, my Steve ran away with her after having an affair for like most of our 7-year relationship. LMAO. She turned out to be a massive jerk to me near the end. Neither of them have friends because of what they did. Maybe like 2, but they're also crappy people. I found the gaslighting and the "there's nothing going on between us. Why would you think that? Why would you ask something that'll hurt you?" type answers the freaking worst. I legit thought I was making the whole thing up, and delusional to the point I had schizophrenia as it runs in the family. His friends even got in on it and had his back. Glad I dodged that one. Glad it worked out with you and your Amy. And now for the update. Before the main update, I would like to say thank you to all the supportive comments. And also, I am sorry to anyone with a Steve in their lives, and proud of the others who got rid of them. On to the main update. Steve found this post. Amy sent me screenshots. Not sure how to post them. Someone made a TikTok video and he saw it. Not super eventful, but something new on the old story. I considered deleting it to avoid the drama, but I decided instead to include everyone on the news if they'd like it. I may still delete it if it becomes too much. I just don't want to give him the power over me deleting it. I'm a little frazzled, honestly. Next story. I caught my husband with his best friend, but I won't tell them I know. Original post. My husband, male 28, is wealthy and is providing me, female 30, a great life while I'm studying. I would never have afforded it otherwise. As a matter of fact, I was a barista before I met him and didn't even dare dreaming about starting college. Now I'm in engineering school. He pays for everything. We have a great house. I don't need to do anything but study and have fun. His best friend, female 27 from college, separated from her common-law husband after he cheated on her. She had no place to go, and we have a guest house. I never had anything to worry about with them because they have known each other for ages. I always thought if they wanted, it would have happened already. I was mistaken. I started having a hunch because of nothing in particular, just felt that they changed with each other. So I snuck on them after pretending to go to my mom's. Nobody knows that I know. But I couldn't let him touch me for 2 months, blaming it on the stress from school starting. Now we do get intimate because I don't want him to suspect me or get tired of me. I cried the first time he touched me after I found out. I wanted to vomit, but I blamed it on stress. Now I just let him. I try to think about other things and try to convince myself that it's just physical. I fake it sometimes when he notices me being absent-minded and starts saying, "Baby, come back to me." I'm in a race with time to finish school before he throws me aside for her. I also had IUD in without telling him. Nobody knows, not even my closest friends. Everyone thinks I'm the luckiest woman on earth. So loved and cherished by an amazing, successful husband. Nobody knows that I cry myself to sleep every night. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Wow, I'm so sorry. Thank you. It feels good to tell someone. So do you have an exit plan? Finish school and move to another city. Please be putting money aside as well. You need a nest egg to begin your new life. Other than that, so sorry this happened to you and best wishes for a fabulous new life. So, this woman leaves her husband because he cheated and then turns around and is your husband's mistress? What? I'm so sorry. Send all the positivity your way that I can. I kind of wonder if the mistress's ex actually cheated or if they divorced because of something she did, and she's just saying that to make herself look better. Like maybe the ex caught her cheating by walking in on her or something but doesn't have proof and he decided to divorce her. But maybe then she decided to get a word out first that it was the other way around and that he was the one who cheated so that no one would believe him when he truthfully said that she cheated on him. That would explain why she's comfortable being someone's mistress now, despite supposedly having been cheated on. Who knows though? For the sake of your education, stay. Try to be strong during those 3 years. Once you can stand on your own feet, leave this man. And don't feel guilty about taking advantage of his money. He's literally cheated on you and still calls you baby, for God's sake. You deserve to get this degree and leave his unfaithful butt. Yes, he still calls me baby. Tells me love you every morning when I go to college and he to work. Text me I miss you from his morning meeting. Calls during lunch and text what I want for dinner before coming home. Like nothing has changed. I can't believe how he can be so two-faced. Is she still in a guest house? Yes, I don't think she's going to leave anytime soon, but she's talking about getting back with her husband if he proposed. 3 years is a long time. I can understand why you're holding out, but your description of your intimate life made me so uncomfortable. I wish you strength, OP. Please remember that nothing is worth your mental health or your sanity. Take stock every few months. Reevaluate where you are and reconsider your options. It may be worth talking to a divorce lawyer so you can weigh up your options. You may be eligible for alimony and might not need to stay with them to continue your education. Are there any grants or scholarships you're entitled to? Please look into other options too. Yeah, I would not underestimate at all what this could do to someone's mental health. This is the sort of thing that can leave long-lasting trauma effects on your nervous system. And that sort of stuff can then take a long time to heal from. And now for the update. Hi everyone. I'm overwhelmed by the people who reached out to me and thank you for all the advice. I might have done something very petty last Tuesday, and I still don't know how to feel about what I did and what good it did. Actually, no good at all. But I think the comments here triggered something inside me that told me to stop hiding. I will have to wait and see if I blew up my future. God, I hope I didn't. As I said before, maybe not in the post, but in the comments, that my husband's friend was trying to reconcile with her husband. She invited him for dinner in her guest house, and after dinner, they asked if they could join us for wine, and my husband was happy to invite them. They stayed for about 2 hours, and I had a lot to drink and wasn't talking a lot. When they came to the subject of reconciliation, I don't know what came over me, but I just mumbled, "Good, I'm happy you two are getting back together so she stops betting my husband." It didn't go well afterwards. My husband looked at me in shock, and I asked him if he thought I didn't know. I've known for months. The friend's husband kept asking, "Is this true? Are you serious? I can't believe you." My husband started crying and a friend started shouting, "You witch," and apologizing to her husband. When her husband left in anger, she rounded on me to yell some more. I told my husband that I was going to bed, and when I wake up tomorrow, I want her to be gone or I'm gone, and left them in the kitchen. I heard them yelling. Yesterday, she was gone. My husband wanted to talk and explained that it was nothing. He never meant to hurt me. He was so stupid not connecting the dots when my mental health was deteriorating. She meant nothing and he regrets it. He told me that he wanted to make it up to me and start couples therapy because we love each other, and we can overcome this with some help. So now he thinks we are going to work on our marriage. I don't know when he's gonna call my bluff, or what happens when his friend is officially single, as I heard that her husband has asked for separation of assets. I hope I didn't ruin everything because of one drunken mistake. You didn't ruin anything. They both ruined your marriage and hers. It's great he wants couples counseling, but you have a right to deny it. I wish you the best of luck. We'll see how much I've ruined. He has moved out to the guest house now because I told him I needed space. I can't control my emotions anymore. They ruined her marriage as well as yours for being a bunch of selfish idiots. It's amazing how you can blame yourself, and the fact that you do, and worry about the damage you may have caused for telling the truth about what they were doing behind your back, tells me you're a good person who probably doesn't stand up for herself enough. Huh, that was awesome. I hate when cheaters say it meant nothing, when that nothing was worth risking their entire marriage and shattering their spouse's heart. Him and his regrets can kick rocks. I think it hurts more when it means nothing. If my husband is going to destroy our relationship, I want it to be for his true love. I think it would be a little easier to accept and move on. I totally disagree with this, and I'm astonished that this is the general consensus here. Why? You really think I would feel better if it means something? Sorry, honey, I cheated on you, but it meant nothing. Sorry, honey, I cheated on you, but it meant so much to me. Yeah, no. I think what they were trying to say is that it's like him saying he broke your heart and betrayed you for no reason. Because it didn't mean anything or it meant nothing, he destroyed your relationship literally over nothing. Which is another way of saying he cared about a relationship less than nothing. Because at least if it was for a good reason like love, that would mean he at least cared about your guys' relationship and had a reason, no matter how crappy the reason is. But to do it for no reason? It's just cruel. Like you tossed away all those years over nothing.
Update. My husband wants me to be a mother to his affair child. Original post. I, 29 female, and my husband, 44 male, have been together for 5 years and married for 2. I met him at a church I started going to when I moved cities to start my career. I work for an insurance company and he's a pastor. I know that we have a notable age gap, but he was always kind to me and made me feel special. Anyhow, a week ago, he came home and told me we needed to talk. He told me through tears that he had been having an affair with one of our community members, 34 female, and that she had been pregnant with twins. She had gone into labor, but she and one of the twins died and the other is in the NICU. He said we needed to step up and that he wants me to turn my office into a nursery and set up a cot in the room so we can take turns. I became distressed and told him I wanted some time to think, that I was not sure I wanted to do this. He told me that I had made a vow to him in marriage, and that God had blessed us with a child. That this is our cross to bear, and that God will never give us something we cannot handle. I told him that it seemed God had given her more than she could handle, because she had died. I know I should not have, but I was not thinking correctly. And he slapped me and told me that I needed to serve my husband. that God had chosen me as this child's mother, and I needed to be his humble servant. I just feel so strange. Yesterday, I cried so hard I threw up. This woman died, yet I feel bad for myself. I feel so ugly. I wanted children and was saving for IVF because I'm infertile. But now that I have a chance to have a child, I do not want it. I feel like I'd be robbing its mother's grave. I pray to God, but if I'm being honest, it has never felt like anyone was ever listening. I feel like I have truly seen my husband, who looks his age and very tired. I want to abandon him and a child. I'm only 29. I can start over. I have a remote job. I can take a day off when he goes to the NICU, pack my essentials and leave. Neither him nor the child deserve this, and although this is my circus, that is not my monkey. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. The only thing that is not a huge red flag in all of this is you realizing that is not your monkey. He chose to be unfaithful, and from that he expects you to ultimately raise another woman's child? No way. If this is all true, there is only one thing you should do. Run. OP's husband also preaches about the vows she made, but what about him? I'm sure there's something about infidelity in there. Such a freaking hypocrite. If the affair partner hadn't died, did he even plan to tell OP about a second family? To top it all off, he physically abuses her. OP, run from this POS. You know what you need to do and what you want to do. Take a deep breath and run. He's manipulating you with your religion. Don't let him do this. Do not let him take this away. I'm gonna guess that this pastor who beats his wife skipped over the vows about monogamy and faithfulness. I hope she lets the rest of his congregation know what he did before she leaves. Otherwise, he'll probably spread horrendous lies about her deserting him. It sounds like he's kind of preying on his congregation, to be honest. He has already slept with at least 2 of the women, both at least 10 years younger than him, and OP's still fairly new. I wonder how often he does stuff like this to vulnerable women, because I highly doubt this was the only second time. Girl, you better love yourself to leave. That's the hard part. I always have felt like I was never on anyone's radar and just being their back burner. It made me feel special and loved, but this last week I feel like I've seen past that. Although I was old enough to decide to be an age gap relationship, I feel like he had no business with being someone my age. I'm 29 now, and I would feel wrong being with someone 24. I spent my whole life accepting second best, and now that one person who put me first has now put me last, I feel like I just see it all now. I feel used. Queen, you are 29 years old, with your whole life ahead of you. Not a person in this thread is wondering how he got this desperate man. They're all wondering how he got a catch like you. Forget being on someone else's radar. You are steering your own ship and have your own radar. You don't need to be on a back burner. You are your own fire. You have a career. You had the strength to move once and build a life. You can do anything. Just make sure it's the right thing for you, not someone else disguising their own sins or yours. Now for the first update. I just want to thank you all for the support. I'm still processing this all, and I just need a little time. I don't feel unsafe, just in love, just not enough. My husband did apologize for slapping me and continues to express regret. But he can't take it back, just as he cannot take back impregnating another woman, which ultimately killed her. I'm just feeling so disillusioned with my whole life right now. I know I should leave. I know that there is a world out there that will not treat me like this, but I'm scared of change. I'm working on a plan to leave and getting my ducks in a row for when I'm ready to go, but I am not sure when I would leave if I choose to. Many expressed that I should make a report to the police about him slapping me, and they're probably right, but that would likely cause me more problems than it would be worth. If I leave, it might make him want to contest the divorce more, and if I stay, it would cause more tension. I've been working on my left hook though, because I won't let him get away with it again. I'm not violent myself, but I'm down for a tussle, because although I'm hurt, I'm angry. I'm not sure if there will be an update because I'm still unsure. I can make all the plans in the world, but the changes scares me almost as much as bending to his will. I've been praying about it, but I see no clear answers nor guidance. I don't know. Funny thing, I'm jealous of the people saying that this is fake. It's like I want my life to be like it was 2 weeks ago. I could read a crazy story on the internet and think, wow, that's crazy. Seems kind of fake. And keep scrolling and go about my life. Only I can't scroll away in real life, because that's just not how life works. I don't owe anyone proof of my life tragedies, least of all strangers on the internet whom I will never meet. But I do thank all who have given support. I wish I could tell you I packed my bags and left his sorry butt, but I'm not strong enough yet. It's not that easy to do in real life as it turns out. 1. You will recover and be happier, healthier, and better for it. I was married to my abuser for 7 years. I started over after leaving him at 29. And a year since, I've started a new career, married my best friend, taken up new hobbies, traveled, lived in new places. It's been amazing. The journey of freedom and fulfillment and happiness where you're not trapped in an unhealthy and happy marriage with a horrible human being is the best gift you can give yourself, and the whole world opens up to you. 2. He doesn't value you. He values the image and stability you create for him. He's trying to gaslight you into staying so he can save face and create the illusion that you accepted his actions. He is trying to use you to care for the product of his affair and to excuse his actions with the church. 3. He has already physically harmed you by assault and endangered you for the entire length of any affair he has ever had. You need to get tested now and again in about 6 months. 4. Physical abuse only ever escalates. I was married to an abuser, and every time he hurt me, I blamed myself, excused his behavior, accepted his pathetic, whiny BS apologies, and allowed the cycle to continue. He will not change. This will not be his only affair, and it will not be the only time he hits you. If you agree to stay, he's going to leave you at home with a baby and go find new affair partners and abuse you when you question him, confront him, or threaten to leave. At which point, he will also use the baby as leverage. Please do not give him the opportunity to do these things. 5. Move out. Take the stuff that matters to you and go start over. Family or friend you've been meaning to visit? That's a great destination to start with. 6. He's a bad person. Full stop. He is an abuser. Do not allow him to cajole or convince otherwise. He is physically and sexually and emotionally abusive. He is a cheater and had no intentions to stop. He had every intention of keeping both of you for as long as possible. Think about that. He didn't come clean when she got pregnant. She got far enough along for viable babies, and he's trying to get you to raise them. He never intended to give up either of you. That behavior will not change. He is a manipulator. This man was a pastor that got into a relationship with a member of the church while married himself, and then hit his wife when she wouldn't comply with his demands. There was no redeeming quality about him. He just had the ability to hide who he really is. He is a narcissist. I recommend heading over to r/narcissistic abuse and r/narc abuse and divorce for additional support and a place to talk with others that will understand. 7. Good luck from one woman who has escaped a guy like this to another. You will be okay. You will heal. You have a better, bigger, happy, healthy life waiting for you. Please take care of yourself. I'm praying for you. Don't take his nonsense. And when he tells you God told me, because he will, don't fall for it. You deserve to be happy. If he hit you once, he can do it again. Also, that church. The fact that some people knew and he is now asking them to help you create the nursery, to sacrifice your office, your space, to make way for this baby, watch out for those people. They're enablers. Do not share your plans with anyone that you do not trust 100%. Do not let him gaslight you into believing that you can now have the life you've always wanted. Please think about finding a good therapist, not through that church, an actual licensed one, to see things clearly. There might even be resources around you that you are not aware of. You have every right to be angry. Pressing charges would hold him accountable for his actions. It might also give you the necessary push and help to get out of there ASAP. Yes, it will create more tension, but this is not your fault. Do not think of it in terms of how he could act. This isn't about his wants or needs. This is about yours. And right now, you need to get the heck out of there. Please understand that change is good. Change in itself is an act of faith. It's about letting go of your control to see what could be out there. Bending to his will, as he so eloquently said, is simply giving up everything that makes you you. And you are worth more than this BS. I'm praying for you. I'm rooting for you. The longer you stay, the more he will wear you down. He has lied and manipulated you. He has physically harmed you. That is not going to change. Change is definitely scary, but being abused is scarier. You need to leave that house. Now for the final update 8 months later. I left. If that's all you wanted to know, there it is. For those of you who are asking how the other woman died, I get it. I invited you into my business. It was an amniotic fluid embolism. I don't know much about those, but I guess when they happen, things go wrong really fast. We lived in a more rural area, so they just weren't ready for something like that to happen. I didn't leave right away, as I know now that I should have. It just wasn't that easy. I stayed for 2 months. I knew if I did not at least try to make it work, I would not be able to live with it. Not because I wanted to save my marriage, but because what ifs keep me up at night enough as is. I went to marriage counseling with my husband, but it was ultimately fruitless. Of course, it was Christian counseling. I felt like their goal was for me to forgive him, rather than actually trying to help me. I was so utterly alone during that time. My parents and brother are also very religious, so even though they weren't happy with my husband, they kept urging me to do what a good Christian wife would do. I spent so much time suffering in my own head that I began to realize that I was just going through the motions, doing what I thought people expected of me. I entered a state of derealization for a time, and that was absolutely confusing. The feeling of nothing being real, not even myself, was horrible. During this period, my husband brought his baby home, and while he tried to split the cares 50-50 at first, he ultimately didn't trust me to look after the baby because I was lost in space. So he ended up being the primary provider. When I was with the baby, all I could think about was how its existence ruined my life. It would look at me with big blue eyes, and I would just wish it would disappear. I would actively spend time resenting a baby. There was a time when I was thinking to myself and wished it would stop breathing. That was when I knew that I needed to leave. I was blaming a baby and wishing ill upon it, and that was not okay to do. I don't remember much about this time besides that. It's mostly a blur otherwise. I sought services through my work to talk to a therapist, and I eventually came back to earth. She helped me make a plan. At no point did I fear my husband. I truly believed his slap was a one-off event. However, screw him. He doesn't deserve closure. So on a night he had a long Bible study, and he always took his baby with him because he didn't trust me, I packed my essentials and dipped. I met him pretty quickly after college, so I did not have much to take as far as furnishings. I fit everything I wanted in 3 suitcases and 4 moving boxes. It all fit into my SUV after some mediocre Tetris skills. I was able to change my phone number online before I left, but I did leave the divorce papers under his pillow with my lawyer's contact info. Kind of like the tooth fairy, but for a-holes. I was the breadwinner, and in my state, we were not married long enough for me to pay spousal maintenance. At least that is what my lawyer said. I own my vehicle outright. We had our own bank accounts and a shared expenses account. We filed taxes separately, and the church owns the house. He's being an a-hole about it all, but I'm hoping it should be done soon. I got a decent apartment in a city a few hundred miles away. I've never lived in a city this big before. Everything is so expensive, but besides that, I like it. I found a new therapist, met some new friends, and found a new church with loving people. I still have my days, but for the most part, I'm content. I think it will always hurt on some level, but I'm working on taking my power back. I turn 30 next month, and I am hopeful it will be the start of my best decade yet. Good. You deserve better. Good luck. God, I'm so sorry, but happy that you're in a safe place. You did well for yourself and your mental health. None of this is your fault. It's all his. Happy you're healthy. I hope you stay happy. Nobody needs to raise a child of their partner's affair. You did the right thing for you. I knew a lady who did it, but it's very rare. Way back in the 80s, a lady I worked with, her daughter was a teenager. She was in a miserable marriage. She was raised super fundy and married at like 18 or 19, and just couldn't contemplate divorce. It terrified her. She worked for her husband's company, desperately wanted another baby because her daughter would be going off to college soon, and she'd be stuck alone with this a-hole she hated. She was really depressed that she couldn't get pregnant again. Well, wouldn't you know it? Look, honey, the Lord blessed us. Someone her husband knew had a relative who got pregnant in high school and didn't want to keep it. I want to say the lady's name was Lynette, something country like that. We worked at a Walden Books in the early 80s. Lynette and her teen daughter fell in love with that baby boy, and Lynette ended up kicking the hubs to the curb and keeping the baby. A sweet story. But screw OP's husband. And OP, is not your fault you resented that baby. Good on you for recognizing it and leaving. You deserve a good life. You said you think it'll always hurt on some level. It won't. It just won't. I don't know how to explain how you go from loving someone to loving them, not liking them, but loving them anyway, to just apathy. Just nothing. It's like the world reabsorbs that love. It just evaporates. And it is gone and no longer the burden that loving a narcissist truly is. Look, I just read all your story and it's horrible. I'm sorry you've been through this hurtful ordeal, but thankful to be on the outside now. I know that better days are ahead. Your ex? That dude has zero capacity for love. Zero. He used his baby to try to manipulate you. Score that on a parent report card. He's trash. Be thankful that love evaporates. He doesn't deserve it, and neither do you. I wish you the very best. You'll be fine. Update. Am I the a-hole for divorcing during my husband's mental health crisis? Original post. Me, 38 female, and husband, 38 male, married since 2009, and we have a preteen daughter. Last 3 years have been really tough on us because of my husband's bad working conditions that started to affect his mental health. I noticed signs of burnout and depression and brought up these concerns regularly to him. He was very dismissive and refused to see his situation and refused therapy. He started becoming distant and often isolated himself and was regularly butting heads with our daughter. He eventually told me that he had met a woman at work. Their relationship was not, according to him, physical, but he was in love with her and felt that she was his soulmate and best friend. He said he was very sorry and that he could not decide which woman he would ultimately be happiest with. He spoke out about this at home whilst I was having the toughest time of my life, and I cried alone over my dreams and plans, everything we had together. He also told me that in order to clear his head, he would need to leave the house and spend some time on his own. That coworker had offered him her spare room, and he was going to take it. I asked for his help organizing the rest of the school year as I was commuting, and I promised him that as soon as the school year was over, I would look for an apartment closer to my work, and me and our daughter will move out, and he can have the house to himself for his healing. I found an apartment almost immediately, and we moved. He visited us one weekend a month and brought his chaos with him every time. The new home had become a safe haven that we cherished, and he took it over as soon as he appeared, and it felt like I wasn't breathing until he finally left. After 6 months of living like this, I decided I had given things enough time to mend, and they had not. I was still hurt and bitter, and he was still cagey about what was going on and what his ultimate decision really was. So I told him I was done living like this and that I wanted a divorce. He absolutely lost his mind and left, and drove back to our old house in the middle of the night just to get away from me. A week later, he told me the coworker is pregnant, and he was angry that I didn't want to even try to fix our marriage. Since then, he has gotten increasingly more hostile and accusatory in his communication with me. He blames me for breaking up the marriage and abandoning him during his crisis. He says he was not himself and has no idea why he did the things he did, but that I was the one who left. He claims I was no help when he needed me and that I had clearly mentally abandoned our relationship long before, more than 3 years prior. He tells me I'm cold and calculating and clearly not the person he thought I was. I understand that he is not well and he finally did go to therapy. I explained a lot of his actions with that in mind at first. So am I the a-hole he claims I have become, taking his daughter away and leaving? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Are you kidding me? The only mistake you made was letting him stay at your apartment every weekend, not the a-hole. What a prick he is. Yes, the husband is making excuses for his bad behavior. He wanted his cake and eat it too. OP, you and your daughter deserve better. You need to model for your daughter how to set boundaries in relationships. There's a big difference between I'm having a hard time and need space before we can work on us together, and I'm having an affair which ended up in a pregnancy. But you're a jerk for not sticking around and helping me raise the product of my betrayal and play housewife so I can continue to screw around with your head? He wasn't thinking about you or your daughter while he was sleeping with other women, and you shouldn't give him the courtesy of occupying another moment of your time or brain's bandwidth. Focus on you and your daughter, and let the grown man deal with the consequences of his own behavior. He made his proverbial bed. You attempted to help him multiple times, and multiple times he shut you out. Instead of seeking help or getting a new job, your soon-to-be ex decided a correct path was an emotional affair that led to a physical affair. There is absolutely no reason to feel guilty about divorcing this guy. Not the a-hole. Stop indulging him. Coordinate his visitation with your daughter through an app. Do not discuss anything else. Keep all communication written. Stop second-guessing yourself. You have nothing to feel guilty about. Thank you for your answer. I've actually noticed that keeping all our communication in writing has helped me deal with all of this better. I feel like my thoughts stay more structured, and I can choose to respond or not respond depending if I feel too insulted or triggered in the moment. Helps me keep civil. I personally feel like I really tried my best to help him, and I was truly devoted and very much still in love. But he sees it very differently, and it's hard for me to reconcile between those two completely different stories. That guy moved in with his affair partner, impregnated her, and now complains that you are breaking up your marriage? He is delusional. Please remind him his actions started this whole ball rolling.
And if he claims his mental health made him, just quote Pete Davidson to him. Being mentally ill is not an excuse to act like a jackass. It may be a reason, but it's not an excuse. He is still responsible for his own actions, especially since he refused all help in dealing with his issues. Lol, so you are supposed to put up with him fooling around on you because it's good for his mental health? Is he actually a cartoon villain? Because that crap is unhinged. Now for the update. I wanted to write an update since my post seemed to raise some questions. And also to thank you for your engagement on the post. It has meant a lot to me. You have given me good advice, some really good things to think about, and some tough love and criticism I surely needed. Thank you so much. The divorce is in process, and I have not seen him in person for some 4 months at this point. He mostly keeps radio silence until it seems he has to unload some hurt on me. I've kept my contact to him to a minimum, only ever messaging him in things regarding our daughter or requesting him to react to official paperwork or to his electricity bills that I've transferred to him. Due to the circumstances in which we started this separation originally, I paid most of his living expenses, mainly since I have a steady job and get paid double his salary. He is still very much incapacitated by his mental health issues, and I wanted to alleviate some of the practical matters for him. Not that we are pulling everything apart, he has been, maybe purposefully, making this into a very slow and frustrating process. Currently, I still pay for his electricity, and he reimburses those bills for me at the end of each month. But sometimes he needs encouraging. Usually this leads to him messaging me all day, usually complains on how I'm now raising our daughter, now that I have made him obsolete, his words. Telling me to get a new dad to help me with a job as soon as possible. He seems to try very hard to push my buttons by saying things like, "It must be very hard for you to send your daughter to someone who you loathe and hate so much." And if I make the mistake of losing my temper, even for one curse word, he will turn immediately and tells me to calm down, stop spitting acid, and maybe we should continue our discussion when I'm not so wound up. I have mainly chosen to not engage in these conversations if when they start going off the rails. I have all of his outbursts in writing. I'm also currently under the impression that a coworker is not interested in a relationship with him anymore. And all of those who ask, yes, the baby is his by his own admission. He still has not told our daughter about any of it, and I have chosen to give him an ultimatum on the matter. I will bring it up one more time when we have our official meeting with our child welfare officer next month, which is the official route where we live. And if he still refuses, I will take it upon myself to tell our daughter the truth. So many of you have encouraged me to do this for her sake and for the sake of our relationship, and I thank you for sharing your experiences with me. I have also contacted her school therapist and the curator and informed them of the issues she's facing now and the ones still to come. I'm hoping they will offer her some scheduled help, since I know she is shy in telling me everything. She's the most important thing in my life, and as sorry as I am for having her to go through this essentially because of my choices, I refuse to take all the blame now. And I'm ready to shift it where it belongs. Personally, I'm a much happier person these days. I feel bursts of gratefulness and true happiness these days, just by watching her eat her dinner and talk to me about her day at the dinner table in our clean and peaceful home. Even my houseplants are thriving, as silly as it sounds. I have finally opened up about all of this to some of my friends and my siblings, and they have all been super supportive. And my siblings were clearly shocked, but both did bring up that they are somehow not surprised it all went this way. They seem to have seen things a bit more clearly from afar, just like this community did. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I feel like my daughter and I are going to be just fine in the end. Stop paying the electricity bill. Stop being sympathetic or empathetic with him. Do not engage. You need to do this for yourself. You owe that to yourself. My friends have also told me to just drop the electricity contract for my plan and have him figure it out. Logically, I know it takes one call for him to make a new contract. He gives me excuses I know are false, but since I also know how passive his mental health issues have made him and how insurmountable small things can become, I find it so difficult to do this and go back on my word. There is also the fear how making our current bad relationship even worse will inevitably reflect on our daughter and getting through all the legalities. I can't wait until it's all done and dusted. You haven't set boundaries before, nor are you setting them now. You are being unfair to yourself. He will drag you down to his own personal hell. Some self-preservation is required here. If you can't get it for yourself, then do it for your daughter. If marital vows meant nothing to him, you can go back on your words. Doesn't appear that he is going therapy. You need to distance yourself from this dumpster fire so that you don't get burned. I am glad that you're doing much better and you're focusing on you and your child. I agree with the others to stop paying for the electricity bill. I know you understand his mental state, but he's no longer your problem, and he definitely wasn't considerate of you at all. Crazy, the coworker he messed up his marriage for doesn't even want him, and now he's got 2 babies he's got to take care of. So let him take care of stuff he needs to take care of. He will continue being enabled by you and won't be able to handle any condition because he doesn't have to. Keep focusing on you and your baby. You're doing great, and I'm happy to hear you're doing better. I know all of you saying this are absolutely right. He will keep taking as long as I let him. I promise I will do it. Maybe this news would be better coming from you in a calm, safe environment, where she can discuss and ask questions, instead of whatever her father's mood might be at the time. You seem to have a handle on things, so good on you. I hope things go well for you both. Yes, most likely it will come to this anyway, as he has been refusing to even talk about the issue so far. I have been instructed to be as neutral/positive as I can in the matter, so that any negative response she might have is not directed towards the new baby. Of course, I hope they might have a sibling relationship in the end, and I have no plans in sabotaging that. The implications about the true reason for the divorce will be something she will put together eventually, but she is mentally mature enough to deal with it. No matter how it plays out, I will be here for her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for breaking off my wedding because of my fiancé's bachelor party? Me and my fiancé have been together for 2 years. It was the eve of our wedding, and I was having my bachelorette party and he was having his bachelor party. So, my bachelorette party was just a little thing with some of my girlfriends and family at my home, with drinks that the family put together for me. On the other hand, my fiancé's bachelor party was at a bar with a huge party, which is perfectly fine with me. But halfway into my party, my friend runs up to me with a video of my fiancé getting a lap dance from one of the girls there. These were Snapchat stories. Then she showed the next video. The video was my fiancé licking a mixed drink off of a girl's front, and another video of him making out with a girl, and then another girl right after her. I was upset and confronted my fiancé about it when he had gotten home the day of our wedding. He got all defensive and said, "It's what guys do on their bachelor party nights. It's the last night we have being single, babe." He was hungover, and I was furious, because I understand, but you don't just go making out with girls and licking drinks off their front. I just decided to try to forget it and go on with the wedding, until he was in the shower and his phone kept going off. We do have a rule where we don't go through each other's phones unless there's a reason, and we have to let the other person know if we are going through them. I wasn't going to touch it, but it kept going off, with people sending him photos on his phone from the night before. So I decided to look at the videos to see if I missed anything. It was photos of my fiancé in bed with 2 girls with no clothes. I turned his phone off, went into the bathroom and told him the wedding is off, and I needed time to process what has happened. He asked why, and I said, "Look at your phone and see." He then changed the whole subject and went insane over the searching phones rule. I told him boyfriends don't bang other girls just because last night he was not husband yet. He cussed me out and then begged for me to keep the wedding on, but I walked out and said no. It's been 2 days now, and his family's upset with me because I called off the wedding too soon and ruined their son's day. But everyone who was at my bachelorette party is on my side, saying it's his fault and he needs to realize he's in the wrong. Should I talk to him about it and reschedule the wedding? I do love him, but I'm not sure if this was a red flag that can lead into the future with him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. He cheated on you under the excuse that it's just what guys do at their bachelor's party, which is not if they have any respect for you. And is now love bombing you / gaslighting you into staying. If you marry this man, he will 100% cheat on you again. And again, it won't be his fault, but the situation's fault. Like you didn't pay attention to him when he needed it, he had a stressful day at work, he was drunk, etc. You will continue to do this until you eventually leave him or make yourself settle for him. This will not be a happy and healthy relationship for you and will only benefit him in the end. Get out while you can. The whole culture behind this type of bachelor / bachelorette party is honestly kind of toxic. The idea of celebrating your last night single? If marriage is so restricting to you, then why the heck are you getting married? Same here. Last night being single? Last I checked, they weren't single. Lol, should you go through with the wedding? You want to sign up for a lifetime of being disrespected and cheated on? Sure, go ahead with the wedding. A guy who would cheat on you before the wedding isn't going to stop because you have a party. It wasn't his last night to be with someone else. His last night to be with someone else was when he committed to you. The wedding is irrelevant. Yep. 1. He would not have been okay with her doing some rando during her bachelorette. Guaranteed. 2. He would have excuses for everything. You were on your period, had a flu, pregnant, just gave birth, etc. 3. Not all guys do this crap. You have to decide what you are comfortable with. Me? I have 2 major hard limits. No hard drugs, no cheating of any kind. That includes intent, verbal, emotional, online, etc. Whether the intent or motivation is sexual completion or emotional fulfillment from another actual human, it's cheating. No ifs, ands, or buts. Petty little me would have compiled all the pictures and videos into one long video, have your dad walk you down the aisle, then before the minister starts the service, turn around to the congregation and say that you'd like to play a short video from the bachelor party. At the end of the video, after everyone has seen him having his 3-way and his reputation is in tatters, then announce the wedding is off. Then go through with the reception to celebrate having dodged a bullet. Edit/update. I've thought about it and read the comments. I'm going to have a talk with him to move his things out of the house, because I'm the one who bought and pays the bills on it. I don't want him in my life, and the comments made me realize it was a huge mistake to even think of putting the wedding back on. Thank you.